Hi there, everyone.
Hello,
We
indeed.
we are back with the random podcast of Awesomeness. This is Shadow Wolf.
And this is Grid at 14.
Now, this week I picked the game, and I picked the game Bubble Bobble. For those of you
Yes,
who are not familiar with it, it's been released on almost every single platform you can think of.
including
Uh,
Xbox Live Arcade.
yeah, it has even been made to be played on a TI calculator.
Yes, and we thought about playing that version of it, but neither of us have calculators, and I don't think I would have enjoyed that.
No, I probably don't think we would have enjoyed it as much. Bubble Bobble it started out as an arcade game,
Hmm.
and if you play it, you will realize this very quickly.
Yes. For the record, it ports over a lot of the arcade gimmicks very, very well. And as I were actually playing Bubble Bobble Old and New, the 2004 port on the GBA. I'm not sure if it was an '04 port or not, but
But yeah, it was a Game Boy Advance port.
yes.
But you start off. There are two twin dragons, one named Bublin and one named Bub. No, Bub or Bublin, and Bob or Boblin. One is green with yellow spikes, and the other is just blue. But anyway, they go through the cave of monsters to rescue their girlfriends.
Yes, because both of their girlfriends have been kidnapped. Les gasp.
Now, the controls for this are pretty basic. You either jump or spit bubbles.
Oh, you can also move left and right.
Well, yes, that too. Left, right, jump, and spit bubbles.
And the controls, although being very basic, actually incorporate. Although they do incorporate well, but their flow is a bit tanky. I want to say, especially when it comes to the level design. But that's skipping quite ahead quite a bit.
So anyway, each level is set up with a whole bunch of platforms and a plethora of enemies that either like come down from the sides or they can also fall through the ceiling if they fall
Yes,
through
and
the
that's one of the
floor.
things
Yep.
where Bubble Bobble suffers from Pac-Man syndrome. If you
Yes.
go from the, I'm not sure if it goes horizontally or not, but vertically, definitely. If you fall into a bottomless pit, the reason why it's bottomless is because it loops around to the top of the screen. Thankfully, in the GBA port, you can actually zoom out the screen so that you can have the entire level on screen at all times. It shrinks your sprite down a bit, but you can still see yourself okay. So I prefer to use that method of playing, as it allows me a constant view of all the different enemies on screen and where they're going.
Which is a good thing to do.
Yes.
Uh, Almost like Pac-Man, you also have like fruit upgrades where you gather fruit and that adds to your score.
They're not really upgrades, mind you, because although there are certain things in the game that act as power ups and such. None of the fruit actually increases your overall control or gives you invincibility or whatnot. And as with a lot of old arcade ports, the higher your score, the better off you technically did. And once your score reaches a certain point, you'll gain extra lives. This
Right.
is definitely a game where extra lives are a blessing, but also a blessing in disguise. Because
Now, as you go against enemies, you put them into bubbles.
yes, that is what Bubble Bobble is. That is Bubble Bobble's, well, Bubba, if you
Premise.
will. His only real form of defense is shooting bubbles at enemies. And if you thought though the guys that guy with the glasses in Channel Awesome were crazy about bubbles, you ain't played this game yet. Oh no! Not only do the bubbles actually trap the enemies inside them, rendering them totally defenseless, but they also continue after having an enemy inside them continually float upwards
Yes.
despite obstacles and despite gravity.
Now, when you, how do I say, run into a bubble with an enemy?
Oh, it takes more than just running into them. Shadow. When I was playing, I noticed that even if I was touching an enemy, that in order to pop the bubble, you actually have to overlay your sprite onto the other bubble sprite in order for it to pop and cause the enemy to be defeated. That, or you have to jump up from below it.
Right, that's pretty much how it works. But they will pop, and you will get something from them.
After you know they dance around the screen a bit, randomizing their drop locations.
Exactly.
Which makes collecting the fruit that drops from enemies very tedious. And it's actually not the best way to get points in this game. The best way to get points in this game is to wait for the randomly appearing fruits and candies to show up, because most of those are worth several thousand points.
Yes, yes, they are. So waiting actually does help in this game.
However, do not wait too long, as
Yes.
there's definitely a time limit on each level. Not that you know what it is, but you will be notified to hurry up. And if you don't complete the level within that time, a new enemy will show up, the Skull Reaper from Kid Icarus, technically. For the record, this game looks a lot like an early rendition of Kirby fused with Kid Icarus. It is very cute.
It is very cute. But yes, you will find out that you cannot defeat this thing.
Yes. Well, that's not entirely true. I'll get into that, but uh,
Well, for the most part, you cannot put this enemy into a bubble and kill it.
yes, you cannot put this enemy into a bubble, but he's not invincible, as you're made to believe he is.
But yeah, basically, when that happens, you want to try to get everything else in the level without getting
ASAP,
hit.
which
Right.
is a lot more difficult than you would think it would be. See, being a baby dinosaur dragonoid thingamafuck, he is, not that athletic. He only gets a single jump because he's not super magical. He's just kind of magical. And his movement is, well, not necessarily slow, but more along the lines of average. And he has pretty much not totally the Belmont syndrome where he doesn't have air control, but he has very limited air control.
Right.
And it makes, falling down both the worst and best possible thing in the game.
Uh, now, I would assume that there's probably about 100 levels in this thing.
Yeah, there looks to be anywhere between 100 and 200 levels actually. Like 50 for Bubba and 50 for Bub, or 100 for them both. But spoiler alert, kind of, I suck at this game a lot. Like, I suck at this game more than I sucked at, well, not more than Out of This World, because I was absolutely horrible at that. Even with instructions, I couldn't beat that thing. But I suck at this game more than I suck at, say, um, I'm going to say the Donkey Kong game that we played a few weeks ago. I suck at this game more than that, and I can't even get past the first few worlds in that game. Okay,
Now, these levels do get progressively harder as you go along, unlike some other games that we've
progressively
played.
harder. No, 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 no. There are difficulty spikes everywhere.
There are.
If you complete a round, expect the next round to be anywhere between 2 and 3 times harder than the last round. Now, for the first 10 rounds, you don't really notice this that much. They introduce a few more enemy types and maybe a few more gimmicks, such as the Pac-Man syndrome. But after you get to right around round 20 to 25, you start to notice things that should not be there. Oh, God. So many traps.
There are a
So
lot
many
of traps.
absolute freaking traps.
I mean, I watched a few videos on people that are actually very good at this game, and I don't know how they did it, but I was not as good as them. I will say that.
Neither was I. I didn't even need to watch. I didn't even need to watch videos online to know I sucked at this game. But dear God, do I suck at this game? Now, let me put it this way. I think for the longest time over the past week or so, I was stuck on, I think, round like 19. I think I was stuck on round 19 for the longest time because in one of the rounds around 19, it was possibly 22, I'm not sure. There are these like 5 columns and the bird enemies that continually go up or down and back and forth. They're constantly going diagonal. And the only way that Bubba has a chance to hit them is if he stands on top of one of the 4 platforms that are at the very tip top and spams the bubbles. This puts him in a very, very vulnerable position because there are at least 10 of these guys. They all start out trapped, but they don't stay that way.
Yeah.
And if you fall into one of those columns, you're screwed. That you will die. Not because, you can't defend yourself, but because you can't defend yourself appropriately enough to get the hell out. There are these small opening sections in those walls that you think that you might be able to go through because your enemies can go through them, but you can't. They're just too small, and they're too small for the enemies too. But you can't go through them, and they can. Mm.
That's just how that bubble bursts. Anyway, uh, now every so often you get like a bonus level.
Not that I found, mind you. I was horrible at this game. I was not even able to complete the first 10 levels on a single continue. Okay.
Well, if you do well, there are bonus levels,
Yes.
and you can get lives and stuff depending on the bonuses. I don't think I've
I
seen them
think the
all, but
bonus levels are completely dependent if you manage to spell the words
oh,
that
that's what it
come
was.
out in
That's right.
bubbles at times.
Which I have managed to do. I don't remember all the letters, but there's like a whole bunch of random letters.
I think it's a total of 7, and you can get anywhere from 1 to 2 in each level if you start at level 1. I think. I don't think that those levels appear otherwise. If you start after like round 10, I don't think they actually appear anymore.
Now, one of the sessions that I played, I actually got all the letters all on the same level because they all came up right away. So I don't know how that happened, but it was pretty
The
awesome.
randomizer.
It was pretty awesome, I will say. Uh, what else is there to talk about? Uh,
How about the power-ups?
yes,
Because every action platformer arcade machine needs power-ups. It makes the game a little bit more bearable, right?
exactly,
Right?
exactly,
No,
right.
no, they don't here. You
Not
see,
really.
here's the thing. Bubble and Bob and Bud, they have this problem of being able to be hurt by their own power-ups.
Yeah, they do.
It's very sad actually. You'll use the waterfall power up, which travels throughout the entire level, taking out enemies. But the enemies that you take out with the waterfall power up, I don't think drop fruit, and if they do, it all cascades on top of each other. So you have to get yourself back up there somehow.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. Uh,
And then
there.
the only other power up that I saw was the lightning bolt power up, which shoots 2 bolts of lightning horizontally across the screen. And you have to use that power up several different times in the game in order to kill enemies that are trapped in these corridors that you actually can't get to.
Yes. There are also like your character is not very fast,
Not very fast, but he's fast enough to avoid most of his problems.
but there are items like red shoes that enable you to walk faster,
I think I
and
saw the red shoes once, and they were worth like 7,000 points.
then I don't remember what it was, but there's also another thing that allows you to shoot bubbles faster.
Not that it really helps. Really, you can shoot bubbles pretty much as fast as you can press the button already. So
Anyway, there's a lot of them. You can even have one ups, which I have got.
yeah, but one-ups are supposed to be here. And you're gonna go through a lot of lives in this
Yes.
because this was an arcade game, and you guys are familiar with the phrase Nintendo hard, right? Well, there's a phrase that goes right alongside that called arcade hard. Now, arcade hard is slightly different from Nintendo hard because it was mostly exclusive to arcade machines. But I want to say that this game has arcade difficulty on it
Yes, it
because
does.
this game wants to eat your quarters, though you
Yes,
can't
it
give it any to
does.
eat. It doesn't care. It still wants to eat your damn quarters. It's not necessarily cheap, mind you, but if you don't play this game in full screen mode, you're just gonna die because you'll fall down the pit, not know that the enemies are up there hovering around the bottom of the pit, and you get hit once, you die. It's not a game over death. You just lose a life, but you still die, and you can only get hit like 3 times before it's game over. And it really does feel a bit cheap that way because if you get hit, I know that the round doesn't start over, but it may as well because it spawns you back at the start of the round area, which means you have to gamble yourself back up to where you were.
Now, this game uses a password system.
Not that it needs it, as it's a GBA game. It has autosaves on it after you complete each round.
Uh,
And I
well,
think you get a password once every 10 rounds, right?
something like that, yeah. So if you do die, you can go back to the level that you were at, but you're not going to have your points anymore.
Which means that the password system in the GBA version is literally pointless. Most of the time, by the way, we're referring to the Bubble Bobble new because the Bubble Bobble old, I'm pretty sure both of us did play it, right?
I played both of them, and it's the same game.
It's exactly the same game, only with downgraded graphics.
Yes, the newer one has upgraded graphics for what could be upgraded, I guess.
Yes,
And
it's a higher pixel count.
and I
Thumbs up.
and I think the audio is slightly better as well.
Yeah, the audio is definitely a bit better, but I want to say that when the pinch music starts coming up, I can't help but think of Mappyland, and I'm not sure why.
I kind of thought that too as well, actually.
As if you've played Mappyland.
Oh, I have, but
Oh,
that's besides the point.
poor soul.
Uh, Now, that's not to say that the audio in this game is bad.
It's not. It actually isn't. It's there. It does what it needs to do, and it's very happy, cheery, and it's kind of cute. The entirety of Bubble Bobble New is, well, cute. When I first started up this game, I was pretty sure I was going to have a small stroke of diabetes. It's that freaking cute.
It is very cute.
You guys think that the Kirby world is cute? No. Look at Bubble Bobble New, and then tell me that Kirby is cuter. I defy you to do this.
Now, let's see here. As we talked about, there are different enemies. Most of them just run around the screen. There are others that jump back and forth, and there are others that shoot projectiles.
Yes, and those projectile rocks can go screw themselves. I'm trying to jump over the rock by going the opposite way, and then I realize I have almost no air control. No, I'm
Right.
going to get hit, and then I get hit, and I get frustrated.
So, another thing about those projectile guys I hate is sometimes I'll walk up to them and I'll put them in the bubble, but I'll get shot.
Yeah, because, putting them in the bubble doesn't disable their shooting animation. They still are preparing to shoot the boulder.
Which does not make for fun times.
It doesn't. This game, okay, this is not a bad game. I'm going to spoil it now. This is not a bad game, but dear God, is it frustrating at times. Especially if you decide to actually go through all 200 levels in one sitting, you sick, sick people. Oh,
No,
this game will frustrate you.
I actually really enjoyed this game despite the level of difficulty to it.
Yes. Now, call us pansies if you want, but if you're going to call us pansies, it is your job and your duty as gamers to go out and play this damn thing. Okay? It looks
Which I
cute.
encourage
It
you.
looks fun. It looks easy. It's definitely cute. It definitely has some fun, but my God, this is not easy.
But I do encourage you guys to try it at least once.
As do I. This is definitely the type of game where I'm very glad that I got to play it, as it is in fact a very good piece of video game history. Bubble Bobble was one of the original arcade machines. There was, an arcade game, another arcade machine that I read about in one of my, I think it was one of my older Game Informer magazines that went right alongside Bubble Bobble. It was a caveman game. I don't really remember what it was. Was it? Crap. I think it was Bonk. Yeah, it had to have been Bonk. And they back even then when I was still reading Game Informer, they recommended me to go play Bubble Bobble and Bonk. And you know what? I gotta recommend them. They're not bad. It's just their arcade difficulty. And if you've played Gradius 3 on the arcade difficulty, you automatically get a medal for badass. I don't care if you even got past the first level. The fact that you played Gradius 3 on arcade difficulty alone gets you a badass medal.
Gradius in general is kind of a difficult game.
Yes, especially on the arcade difficulty setting.
Now, for this being a pretty much arcade game ported to the Game Boy Advance, I will say that the graphics are actually pretty decent.
Yes, especially in Bubble Bobble New. Old, I think, has got a slightly updated graphics feel, but not too much. It definitely does feel as though you're playing on the older arcade system.
Right.
And there's nothing really wrong with that, but I wish to all of the heavenly deities around the video game culture, if you will, that the control in this was better. I would love to play this game again if the control was better.
Which you never know because these sort of games come out all the time, so you never know. There might be an update.
Yeah, there might be, but the closest thing I can hope for right now is an update on the 3DS arcade, and I don't have either of those things.
Yes. Uh, what else is there to cover? We've pretty much covered most of the game.
True. However, there are a few things that I really want to cover that we haven't really touched on yet, such as um, I know that I've already harped on this game feeling a bit cheap, but it's not that it's cheap, but it's trying to teach you by punishing you what you're doing wrong,
Right.
and it will punish you. Yes. Oh, I kind of feel that the punishments are a bit too strict. Like, I really wish that the game had a little bit more easy tones to where you actually could take more than one hit before you died.
Yeah.
And it actually spawned you right where you got hit as opposed to, right down at the base. I personally think that those two changes alone would make this a lot more fun to play. Um, I don't find the music all that memorable, but it does fit with the mood of the game. It's a happy, cheery game. And the story doesn't need to be explained, but for what we get some good stuff.
Yeah.
Girlfriends are kidnapped, go capture. It's Mario all over again.
Except in this case, they both have respective girlfriends.
Yes. Poor Luigi. He never has a girlfriend. Well, there's Daisy, but I'm not entirely sure if that relationship is BFGF or not.
And even so, that's not canon.
Yes, it's non-canon.
Uh, I don't know how this works. I think when you kill all the enemies at the same time, you get like an explosion of fruit that comes out.
Yeah, if you can kill multiple enemies at once, you get bonus points, and if you kill everyone at the same time, there is an explosion of fruit. I dare anyone to try and collect this all past level 20. Because seriously, the way that the fruit goes and how slow you fall, there's just almost no way to get it all. Mind you, it's not really worth all getting. I mean, the one time that I almost did it, it's only worth like 700 pieces of fruit, and I don't think there is a bonus for collecting it all in one go.
No, there isn't.
But it's pretty much the best way to get the extra lives early on, and you're
Right.
going to need them because, again, this game is. Uh, I feel like a broken record harping on it so much, but it is difficult, guys.
Oh, I just realized what the letters spell out, but you collect the letters EXTEND to spell extend.
Ah, which means an extra life and bonuses. Got it.
Yep.
Yep, it's definitely an arcade homage. Extend my playtime, make me suffer more.
Now, I thoroughly did enjoy this game despite how difficult it was.
As did I. I just found that I couldn't play over extended periods of time. I would play this for anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes at a time and then just say, no, this is actually starting to frustrate me. So I would turn it off. But I'd come back again, renewed, and I would keep going at it. Thing is, that's not really how I like to play my games. I prefer to sit at a game for several hours at a time. And I can't do it with this thing. I really can't.
And I guess that's what makes it more of a arcade game.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, you want to get into our final scores, Mr. Shadow?
sure, let's do that. Uh, it's an overly pleasing game, and I like that the difficulty is there. Uh, I'm probably going to give this an 8.5 out of 10.
Really? Um, okay. Man, I'm starting to look like the villain of the show. All right. Now, I did have some fun with this game. I personally think that the cutesy feel and the happy-go-lucky music really work to the game's advantage. However, with the controls being this difficult to get used to and work with, and the overall what I define as cheapness, even though it's not actually cheap, it's trying to teach me to avoid certain things, but I don't like being told it with such high consequences.
Yeah.
I find that the arcade level of difficulty here is a definite detriment to me, especially on a portable console game. It probably makes it better in that regard, but the fact that you have to defeat your enemies in such a specific way that's a lot more difficult than it sounds is another
Yes.
detriment to me. I find myself being unable to play this game for extended periods of time, and that really hurts it for me. However, there's definitely a good game here, and I did like what I played. I just don't think I'm going to come back to it because I don't like playing it for, again, extended periods of time. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10 because there is a good game here. There really is. I just can't find it. It's too difficult for me.
Well, that said, thank you all for listening. This has been the Random Podcast of Awesomeness.
It
And,
feels like we're actually making shorter episodes. I hope you're happy, Cloud.
well, this one's actually on the 28-minute mark right now.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I had fun, and this has been the Random Podcast of Awesomeness.
Indeed, it has.
This is Shadow Wolf.
And this is good at 14.
Uh, have a safe week or whatever, and until next time, guys.
Be safe, guys.